So having dealt with customs and immigration, I'll just go through some of the other documents and some of the other paperwork that I tend to keep in my folder here. So the first one, quite obvious, ferry tickets. If you're going on a ferry, if you can get them in advance, then obviously keep your ferry tickets nice and safe. It could be certain parts of the world you just turn up and have to just join the queue and hope you can get on the ferry. But in some places you've got to make sure that you keep the ferry ticket, because they actually charge you when you've left the ferry as opposed to boarding the ferry. But either way, just keep hold of your ferry tickets. A contacts list is very useful. So that's absolutely everybody. And the same with everything I've mentioned so far. You want to carry scanned copies, hard copies with you, as well as digital copies emailed to yourself and to your colleagues back home. This contact list would be all the emergency services. Then what number do you call if there's an incident? It would be any in-country support, the numbers of the embassies of your particular country, any tour companies that have assisted you, any hotels where you're staying, any breakdown services, any vehicle enthusiast clubs, any dealerships, anybody and everything that would help you in that particular country. Make sure you've got the whole lot listed down very clearly as one big contacts list. Absolutely everybody on the road and anyone useful to you back home. If you're not super mechanically minded and there is the option of having some form of breakdown cover, say you're traveling through Europe some way before you venture further out of Europe, then make sure you have your breakdown cover with you. Another very useful one is world fuel prices. Now, as you can see here, this is one of the latest print-offs. We are going from Venezuela for the litre. It's so small it doesn't even register. The first one I can read is Saudi Arabia, which is 2 pence a litre, going right up to Norway at £1, currently £1.37 a litre. So a huge difference. A typical example, particularly if you're heading east, is Bulgaria. Now Bulgaria I think was roughly in the 50p a litre mark, and Turkey was kind of in the top end at about the £1.30 a litre. So having that with you just allows you to double check, do I fill my tanks to the brim this side of the border to get me many hundreds of miles across the country before I have to buy it in country, or do I actually not fill and I wait until I've gone 100 meters down the road and I'm in the other country and I'll fill the tanks there. So same again, I'll leave the link to this very useful website in the description box below. Equipment instructions, things like satellite communications, although I would tend to keep those hidden. Car-to-car radios, keep them hidden as well at certain borders. We use satellite tracking systems. You may have a fridge on board, you may have vehicle inverters, you may have certain air compressors. Whatever it is, if there's instructions on how to operate it, take them with you. The vehicle owner's handbook, a workshop manual. Ideally, for us in the UK, we have a thing called the Haynes manual. Definitely take one of those. But if you can get the manufacturer's workshop manual as well, that has much better exploded diagrams, then I would have copies of those as well. The one thing you want to note just very briefly on this one is when it comes to using credit cards overseas, double check with your bank which is the cheapest way to pay for certain things. It could be that you used a credit card, it could be you used a debit card, it could be you used traveller's checks, it could be you go to an ATM and take money out, it could be that you change cash in a bank or whatever. Just make sure you've got it in your head as to which is going to be the cheapest way. For the bank I'm with, Lloyds Bank, there's something called a platinum account. So I pay £14 a year or whatever it is. I can't remember. It's not much, but I pay this sort of subscription to allow me to have this card. This card gives me commission-free transactions when it comes to buying anything. So as you can imagine, as soon as I've left the UK, I'm filling up 3 vehicles and paying for 9 people's accommodation and 9 people's meals 3 times a day, plus everything else, plus ferries and all the rest of it. This thing paid for itself in about the first 12 hours because I wasn't being charged 2% transaction on every single transaction I made. I wasn't being charged £2 for every single transaction I made. This was simply, I pay it, they're going to make a little bit of money on the buying and the selling price of the currency, but there's no additional percentage or flat fee on top of the straightforward transaction. So check with your bank, because something like that for a long trip could save you thousands of pounds, literally. Also make sure that your cards are unblocked. Certainly when we did the Cape Town run, 21 countries or 20 countries in 11 days is very unusual activity for anybody to be traveling. So of course this is immediately going to get flagged up by their computer. Nobody tries to spend money in that many different countries that quickly. Something must be wrong and they'll block your card. And the last thing you want is having filled up God knows how much into the vehicles, paying for the hotels and all the rest of it, suddenly find your cards are blocked. You're going to end up in a lot of trouble. So double check with your bank, explain exactly where you're going, make sure they know, but also have all of the contact numbers for your bank. Make sure you have a 24/7 hotline number, whereas if you're stuck at a garage, you've filled up hundreds of pounds worth of fuel into the vehicles and then it gets blocked, you've got someone who you can ring immediately, not the next day when the main Lloyds Bank opens. Someone who can immediately, you can get on the phone to, unblock it and all the rest of it. And the same goes, satellite phones, very useful for this, because if you haven't got a phone signal, having a satellite phone, finding somewhere quiet, walking away from the garage, get it sorted out with a sat phone to a 24/7 number is very useful. Insurance as well is another important one. Don't skimp on this, because the moment you need it, you do not want to find in the small print that the company you've taken out a very expensive policy with does not cover overland travel, does not cover certain countries, does not cover certain conditions. We tend to use Campbell Irvine and Tasker Partners for ours, and I will same again, I'll put descriptions of those guys in the link below. Other certain kit, cameras, sat phones, other expensive stuff, they can cover as well. But really the important thing is your personal health and the fact that if needs be, they will fly you home to continue medical cover back in your home country. Make sure you've got a good policy on that one. Certain countries will require an international certificate of vaccinations or prophylaxis. Okay, so yellow fever is a big one. Cholera is another one. Now, when I used to work in Africa, we couldn't get the cholera vaccine. The UK didn't recognise the particular vaccine that was available at the time, so they wouldn't issue it to you. Certain countries, I think it was Zambia, still insisted that you had the cholera vaccine, but you couldn't get it. So what we used to do was actually have our own little stamps made up and falsify it and sign it, or get one of our friends on the trip to sign it. But make sure you double check with your local doctor's surgery, and it tends to be the nurse who deals with this, or you could go to a travel clinic, but make sure it's up to date, you are vaccinated, you know what the health risks are, and you carry this certificate, because there's every chance in certain countries they will check on it. They will want to see a copy of it. Have a kit list of everything you're carrying. Customs might want to know, what are you carrying in this big vehicle? Rather than having to offload the whole thing. Obviously there are certain items you do not want to declare. Drones are banned in many countries now. So you can get them quite small ones. The Mavic Pros are really small. Just keep them hidden. Don't declare them. And if you do use them, do them way, way, way from any civilization. Not in a big town. Do them where it's beautiful, pretty remote landscape. Don't get yourself in trouble in near a big city. But having a kit list, one, it reminds you what you're carrying. If you can itemize which boxes have got certain things, it saves you having to rummage through the whole vehicle. But it could be that you have to leave it with customs rather than them completely unloading the whole vehicle. If you're being sponsored on your trip, have a list of the sponsors. Remind yourselves what they've provided for you, so that you can tick it off that you've got to get photos, you've got to get certain write-ups, you've got to get some film of all the sponsors kit, or if you have a media team with you, you've negotiated the sponsorship, they're the ones who you're going to ask to get this marketing material. You can hand this over to them and they can make sure they do not miss anything out. The last thing you want is to come home and find you haven't got a picture of the tyres you were using or the sleeping bags or wherever it is. Have your route listed just so that you can make sure that you're keeping on the itinerary and everybody else on your team knows where you're supposed to be heading. Have all your accommodation listed, contact details, the date you're supposed to be there, names, addresses and all the rest of it. And have the overall itinerary, not just the route but the actual overall itinerary, because you may be staying for a certain amount of time in certain places. Have it all listed out. Other very useful things to have are to carry business cards with you. You're going to meet a lot of great people on the road, a lot of really, really helpful people, and it would be lovely to stay in touch with them. So business cards are very useful to hand over if you want to hand over your details so they can stay in touch when you return home. But the other nice touch are little stickers that you can put on various places just as a reminder for other travellers that you've been through that part of the world, or to leave with kids or to people who've helped you. And the other one is maybe even little like postcards with sort of a team photo on it, or at least a photo of the vehicle. If your little expedition has a project name describing where you're from or where you're going to, it's just a nice little memento to leave with people who've helped you. You know, customs, police, immigration, most of the time, for 99.9% of them, they are there just to do their job, and they will be incredibly helpful and thankful that you are coming to see their wonderful country and to spend money in their country and helping their economy and helping them. So to have a little memento of something that you can give them as a thanks, a little keepsake, it's really useful. So I hope this has been useful to you. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, but please do get in touch if there is anything that you think I've missed, or if there's something you think I should have added, or if there's more information you want to know, or you want details of how I draw up itineraries, how I write up team manifests, where I get copies of things, whatever it is, please do put it in the description, in the comment section below. Please share this video. Hopefully there'll be people out there that are currently in that kind of, oh my word, I know how to get myself ready, I know how to get the vehicle ready, but this minefield of paperwork is just doing my head in. I don't even know where to start. Hopefully this will, you know, kind of unravel some of it and explain some of it, and will be of useful. So yeah, share the video. If you can, put a little, tick the little like section, and maybe tick the little bell icon ready for the next video that comes up. So thanks again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I haven't waffled on too long, and look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.